You know how it goes, right?
Yeah.
You want the big picture on something complex, like,
Yeah.
say, the 2025 Ballon d'Or race, but without drowning in every single detail.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we're trying to do today.
We're diving deep into it because, honestly, it feels like the last one just ended, but the chat is already buzzing,
Yeah.
and things have definitely taken some twists and turns already.
Oh, they certainly have. We've seen a real shakeup. Some of the players we thought were locked in, maybe not so much now, and some new names are really making a strong case.
Right.
We've sifted through a bunch of recent articles, looked at expert takes, even checked out some fan discussions, to try and give a clear view of what's actually happening.
So think of this as your shortcut, your way to get up to speed quickly. We're trying to cut through all the noise, identify who's actually leading the pack right now, and figure out why things are changing.
And those recent Champions League results, they're a huge part of the story.
Absolutely key. Those games have seriously thrown a spanner in the works for some predictions, haven't they?
No doubt. The quarterfinals especially had a massive impact, particularly for players we might have pegged as early favorites.
Like the Real Madrid situation.
Exactly. Real Madrid getting knocked out by Arsenal, that was big. Over the two legs, Arsenal just looked stronger, and several sources have pointed out how that's really dented the Ballon d'Or hopes for both Kylian Mbappé and Vinicius Jr.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. Mbappé, I mean, his individual skill is just off the charts, right? The stats were something like 32 goals and 4 assists not long ago.
Incredible numbers, yeah.
But it feels like maybe just the individual stats aren't quite cutting it this year. Is that fair?
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? It's kind of a classic Ballon d'Or theme. Individual brilliance, yes, it's crucial. But the voters, they often seem to put a really high value on the big team trophies, especially the Champions League. Historically winning that, or even just getting to the final stages, it gives players a huge boost. Sometimes even if their, raw goal numbers aren't the absolute highest, it suggests that performing on that biggest stage, that's key.
And it's a similar story for Vinicius Jr. too, then. Despite his own great season for Madrid, that lack of European success is a major roadblock for the Ballon d'Or.
Precisely. You can't deny their talent, obviously. But looking at how the voting often goes, that Champions League success, or lack thereof, it really frames a player's entire season on the world stage.
Okay, so flip side then. Arsenal go through. That means Bukayo Saka's chances get a boost, right?
Definitely. His profile in this whole conversation has gone up. And apparently, Carlo Ancelotti himself even tipped Arsenal to go all the way in the Champions League.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it brings up an interesting point about the criteria, doesn't it? Saka's individual stats might not be, quite as astronomical as some others.
Right.
But his role in that Arsenal team, competing hard in the Premier League and getting depth in Europe, that creates a really strong narrative for the voters. Performing in those high-pressure knockout games, that gets noticed.
Okay, what about Harry Kane? Phenomenal goal record for Bayern Munich. The numbers are just staggering. Surely that counts for a lot.
It does count, of course. But Kane's situation is almost the perfect example of stats being only one part of the picture. Bayern going out of the Champions League earlier than expected, that really hurts him, according to the reports. That lack of a deep European run just tends to overshadow even amazing domestic form when it comes to the Ballon d'Or.
It's tough. And Mo Salah at Liverpool. He's been on fire in the Premier League. The numbers are seriously impressive across the board.
Salah's case is an interesting one. Liverpool also had that earlier than hoped for exit in the Champions League. And Thierry Henry actually came out and said he doesn't think Salah will win it this year. It's that combination, isn't it? Not going far in Europe, plus no major international tournament this summer where he could really shine again on that global stage.
Right. That makes sense. Those tournaments can be a final push.
Exactly. They often give players that last big platform just before the voting. Without that this year, Salah's case relies pretty much entirely on his club form.
Okay, so with those big names hitting roadblocks because of the Champions League, who has seen their stock rise, it feels like Barcelona players are suddenly getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, this is where the whole narrative takes a really interesting twist. Rafinha especially. He's being talked up as a leading contender now. A real breakout season, they're calling it.
And the stats back it up.
Oh, yeah. Around 28 goals, 22 assists mentioned in a couple of places, and one source even had him at 50 goal involvements across all competitions. Those are hard numbers to ignore.
And there's even talk that if Barca goes deep in the Champions League, he could be the clear favorite. Plus, bookies in England have him as the favorite now. And Thierry Henry agrees.
Exactly right. The momentum seems to be swinging his way. It's that combination, isn't it? His own strong performances, plus Barcelona looking better, especially in Europe. His Champions League stats were decent too, something like 12 goals, 7 assists mentioned somewhere. Performing there is just so critical.
Then there's Lamine Yamal. I mean, he's 17. It's incredible he's even in this conversation.
It's a fantastic story, isn't it? To be making that kind of impact at his age is just, yeah, it's extraordinary.
And his stats are impressive, too, for his age.
They are. And while his Europe 2024 win was mentioned in some reports, that actually wouldn't count for this Ballon d'Or, the 2025 one.
Okay. Good clarification.
But still, if he keeps playing like this, and if Barca do go far in the Champions League, yeah, he could genuinely be in with a shout to be the youngest winner ever. It's a powerful story.
And we absolutely cannot forget Robert Lewandowski, still banging in the goals, still performing at an elite level despite his age.
You really can't. His consistency and just longevity at the very top is remarkable. He's still effective in Europe, too. Good Champions League goal tally.
Right.
And there's always that background context, isn't there, about him arguably being robbed of the award in 2020. For some voters, that might linger. You know, a sense of wanting to reward his continued brilliance, especially if Barca finish strong and, crucially, win something significant.
So beyond this sort of top tier that seems to be emerging, are there other names bubbling under? Anyone else getting mentioned?
Oh, definitely. Lautaro Martinez at Inter Milan, having a great season in Serie A. If Inter managed to pull off what some are calling a potential historic treble, well, that would be huge for him, even with their Champions League exit. He's seen as a genuine superstar in Italy.
Okay. And Jude Bellingham started the season like a house on fire.
Yeah, his stats are still impressive, no doubt. But similar to Mbappé and Vinicius, really, that lack of Champions League progression for Real Madrid probably counts against him in the final analysis.
Makes sense. Florian Wirtz at Leverkusen also had a great season, but maybe missed chances in key games could hurt him.
That's a really good point. It's often not just the season overall, but delivering in those massive defining moments. That's what sticks in voters' minds. Same sort of thinking applies to Julian Alvarez at Atletico. Strong first season, but probably no major trophies, which makes it tough.
And a few others got mentioned as outsiders, too, like Pedri, Kvaratskhelia, even Declan Rice, maybe, and Van Dijk and Gabriel for defenders.
Yeah, it just shows the depth of talent, doesn't it? But let's be honest. The award historically favors attacking players, guys who score the goals, create the chances, especially in title-winning teams.
It's always harder for defenders, yeah.
It really is. Exceptional defensive seasons get recognition, sure, but they rarely seem to translate into Ballon d'Or wins these days.
So when it really comes down to it, what are the absolute key things that sway the voters? What matters most?
Well, we've kind of touched on most of them. Individual stats, goals, assists, they're always important, obviously.
Yeah.
But team success, especially the Champions League, seems to carry enormous weight.
Right.
Domestic leagues, cups, they all add to the case. Consistency is big, too, and performing in those high-pressure games.
And there's that slightly fuzzier element, too.
Yeah, that class and fair play thing that gets mentioned. It's a bit subjective, but it's officially part of the criteria, so it can play a role.
It's interesting seeing the fan discussions, too. We looked at some Reddit threads, and opinions are all over the place.
Oh, absolutely. Those threads show you all the different narratives bubbling up. You've got people making strong cases for Salah based purely on stats.
Yeah.
Others are convinced it has to be someone from a team that wins big, especially the Champions League. There's even still debate about Rodri last year. Shows how much scrutiny the whole thing gets.
And the league a player is in. That comes up a lot in fan chats, too, doesn't it?
It does. There's definitely this perception, maybe fair, maybe not, that playing in La Liga, for instance, gives you a bit of an edge, that it's more fashionable. So you see debates about whether brilliant players in other leagues get overlooked, and opinions on players like Bellingham are split to world-class talent or maybe a bit overhyped. It really highlights how subjective it all is.
In L'Equipe, the French paper, they also stressed how wide open it feels right now.
Yeah.
And they mentioned upcoming things like the Nations League, maybe even the Club World Cup, could still sway things.
That's a crucial point. While the club season is massive, those international competitions later in the year can be a final chance to impress.
Right before the voting.
Exactly. And the fact they even mention the Club World Cup, even if its influence is a bit uncertain, shows that these later events can shift the balance. They also noted the bookies favoring Rafinha and Salah, which is interesting in itself.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. The 2025 Ballon d'Or race. It's looking incredibly dynamic, very unpredictable right now. Those Champions League results really did shake the tree.
Totally. Some early favorites, particularly from Real Madrid, have seen their chances dip. Meanwhile, Rafinha, maybe Dembele, the whole Barcelona group really, have surged forward as serious contenders.
And players like Salah and Kane, despite their individual brilliance, face that challenge of their team's European exits.
Precisely. And then you've got the young guns like Yamal making waves, suggesting maybe a changing of the guard is starting. It's fascinating.
So as you've been listening along, hopefully this gives you a good sense of those shifting dynamics, all the different factors bumping against each other.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What will ultimately carry the most weight with the voters this year? With the Champions League final still to come, other competitions playing out, which story will win out? Could we even see a dark horse emerge late on? What single factor strikes you as the most decisive in this really open, really intriguing race?